Good morning, and welcome to CabWriter Comprehensive 2.0. Today we're going to begin, in this part 2, we're going to begin to draw the kitchen you see in front of you. This kitchen right here. But we're not going to draw it in this style, which is a raised panel, frame and panel style. We're going to draw it in a frameless, a slightly modified frameless style. It's going to be the same style used in this CabWriter 2 with Cutlass Bridge DXF User's Guide. And I highly recommend that you download this user's guide and look at least a couple of chapters before viewing this video. You can get this user's guide if you go to our website. This is the home page of our website. And if you go to training, you'll notice the third item down is CabWriter 2.0 User's Guide. If you click on that, it'll bring you to this page where you can download the 2.0 User's Guide. And if you click on that button, you can choose either opening it right there or better yet, saving it. Saving the file to your downloads folder or to your desktop. Once you've done that, before proceeding with this video, I would go and read at least chapters 5, 6, and perhaps 7. Chapter 5 is a chapter that describes the story stick in detail. And it will show you exactly what the story stick is, how to interpret it, some of the parameters that that control the type of end treatments that you use. And you can draw some cabinets and get a feel for some of the types of problems you can run into. Chapter 6 shows you how to arrange cabinets. That is, cabinets with more than one box. It'll also show you how to draw some cabinets that are not standard cabinets. And we're going to use a style that's pretty similar to this style right here, although it's going to show the actual vertical styles. Here it is right here. This is the cabinet we're going to start off with today. I'm going to show you how to draw this cabinet. Notice this is not the strict frameless cabinet. It's got the vertical styles are showing. So I call this the Martha LaBelle style. And we're actually going to create this and save it in our defaults under the user's defined defaults. Chapter 7 is a little different. Chapter 7 shows you how to use SketchUp to do some interesting non-traditional cabinets like this. Those can be drawn in SketchUp with CabWriter, and they'll look like this. And that was done to recreate this cabinet in this picture right here. You can't quite see it here, but trust me, it looks like this. Okay, so now I want to get started. And we're going to start off today with drawing only one cabinet, but we're going to take a lot of time to explain it, and I'll also show you how to draw the walls. So what I've done here is I've opened up a fresh model. It's not saved yet. That's the first thing I have to do is save it. And so I'll save it. In my CabWriter Comprehensive 2 folder under Part 2, and I'm going to call it Martha LaBelle Cabinet. I'm sorry, Martha LaBelle Kitchen. And I'll save it. The next thing I have to do with the CabWriter project is to create one. And I'll use this icon right here, Create Project. When I click that, the CabWriter settings comes up, and notice that the name in the CabWriter settings project name is Martha LaBelle Kitchen. It takes the name from the file. And the next thing I want to do is I'm going to start off with some defaults. I'm going to start with the Frameless defaults, Imperial defaults Frameless. But I want to modify those. And one way I want to modify it is to use, in the face frame, is to make sure that the styles, connector styles, are drawn. So I'm going to draw the connector styles. And there's some other changes I might want to make. But I've already done this once, and I'm going to close this out and show you that I've done it once before and saved it and called it Martha LaBelle Base Cabinets. So I can bring those up. Notice where they were. They were in my user-defined defaults. And so I've saved that, and I've saved some others here. And so I'm going to bring up the Martha LaBelle Base Cabinets. I'm going to load that. And notice it not only has the connector style, but it also has sheet style and opening style. Those will be drawn. Okay. With that, I'm ready to start drawing. And I'm going to start by drawing the walls. I'm going to use the wall tool to do that. I'm going to click on the origin and bring my wall out. Now the first thing you want to be careful of, and this is a rule, a hard and fast rule with CabWriter. All CabWriter projects have to be drawn in the positive green and positive red space, this space out here. This is the negative red, this is the negative green. We can't have anything out here, or here in this quadrant, or here in this quadrant. It has to be in this quadrant. So as we begin to draw this wall, notice it wants to draw it on the negative side of the red axis. I can change that by simply hitting the Control key. Now it's on the positive side of the red axis. The other thing you want to notice is as I drag this out and look at the cursor, the cursor has a pencil with a red bar, red standing for hot. This is an inside wall. If I wanted to be drawing an outside wall, I could hit the Alt key and notice the cursor changes to blue for cold. And as soon as I moved my cursor, notice the wall got fatter. Okay, but I want to draw an inside wall. So I'll come back and I'm just simply going to type 144 inches or 12 feet. And notice I got a wall 12 feet long on the positive side of the red axis, 96 inches tall. Now the 96 inches tall is because my CabWriter settings were set for that, and I'll just bring that up to show you. Notice the wall height is 96 inches, default. Outdoor wall thickness is 6.5. Inside wall thickness is 4.5. You can change these to anything you want. But then you'd have to update them, save them, and if you're modifying the Martha LaBelle default, you'd want to save those again too. Okay, so now I have my first wall. I want to draw another wall. And this one wants to be 220.5 inches. You can convert that to feet. It's a little over 18 feet. But I'm going to stick with the inches. Now, I want to start it back here, which I can do if I can find this point and keep the point. There it is, but I can't quite keep it. I could use X-ray, and now I can see that point pretty clearly. But the other thing you can do with the wall tool is simply start here. And notice it places it on the floor. And now you can drag it out along the red axis. Notice the red axis. And type 220.5. That's my second wall. And I need one more wall. And it wants to be 199.25 inches from this face. 199.25 inches, so I'll use my tape measure tool. I'll go along the red axis. I can hit the right arrow key to force it on the red axis, and just type 199.25. 199.25. So now I want to start my next wall. Right here. And I'm going to bring that out along the green, 83.75 inches. 83.75, enter. And now I've got my last wall. I can get rid of this guideline now. I no longer need it. Now, my next step would be to put any obstructions in these walls. For instance, windows, doors, plumbing, electrical sockets, things like that. I'm not going to show you how to do that because these are simply components. You can use standard native SketchUp tools to create those obstacles. And I'm not going to show you how to do that now because this isn't a course on how to use SketchUp. But what I am going to do is offline, I'm going to delete these walls, and I'm going to bring some walls in with the obstructions already there. So I'll be back in a moment. Okay, I'm back, and I did a couple of things while I was offline. I not only brought these walls in, but I also, with the windows, that is, I brought them in with the windows. I didn't create any other obstructions like plumbing or electrical or anything like that. You can do that because these walls are nothing but components. Standard SketchUp components, so you can edit them and put obstructions in there. That can be done with native SketchUp tools. But the other thing I did is, if you notice, when SketchUp creates a wall, it gives it a CW_wall space number in both the instance and definition name. And it puts all the walls on a walls layer. So if I look at this one, this is CW_wall2 on the walls layer. And the same with this one, CW_3 on the walls layer. I'm not going to change the name, either the instance or definition name of the walls. In fact, I warn you not to do that. You can change the name, but always use the capital C, capital W, underscore, capital W, ALL space prefix. And then you can put anything you want after it. You can have numbers or what have you. What I would do is I would leave them the way CabWriter sets them up. What I would do after that is to create layers. In this case, I created a north wall layer. By the way, I made it wall, comma, space, north, wall, comma, space, west, wall, comma, space, east. And the reason I did that is because when you alphabetize your layers, they will all be together. All the wall layers will be together. If I started off with west wall, north wall, east wall, they wouldn't be together. So I chose to do it this way. But creating those walls will help me later when I create scenes. So what I'll do is I'll take this west wall and I'll put it on the west wall layer. And by the way, I want the window on there too, on the west wall layer. And similarly, I want the wall plus the window here on the north wall layer. And I want this, I have no obstructions, I want it on the east wall layer. Now if I get rid of my visible checkbox for east wall, the east wall goes away. If I do it for the north wall goes away. If I do it for the west wall goes away. That way I can set up my scenes and remove walls if they're blocking things. Okay, so now I no longer need the walls layer, so I'll simply get rid of it. And I'll save my file at this point. Alright, now I'm ready to start drawing the cabinet. And what I have to do to start drawing the cabinet is put some construction lines down. It's a necessary requirement for CabWriter that in order to draw a cabinet you have to have construction lines. The axis isn't good enough. Either the red or green axis or the blue axis are not good enough. You have to have construction lines. So I'll come out from this edge 24 inches, which is the depth of a base cabinet. And I'll do the same here, 24 inches. I could come out from this inside of this wall 24 inches, but I don't want to clutter up my view right at the moment. The next thing I'm going to do is start with the story stick. The story stick is a tool very similar to the story pole that carpenters used years ago, and I think probably still use. So I'm going to start right here at this intersection and click once. I'm going to come out along this line, and I have to be on the line. Make sure you see that little online tool tip. and click again. Doesn't matter where I am on this line as long as I get the tooltip that says online. So I'll click again. That'll bring up the end selector. It wants to know how I want to treat this end. That cabinet's going to be a Lazy Susan, and it's Lazy Susans go around the corner. They go around the corner on two walls. So I need a pivot style or a pivot treatment. In this case, I want a left pivot connector, and I'll say OK. And now my cabinet's going to be 47 inches long. So now the Story Stick tool has three modes. The Story Stick, which is the way it is right now, if I click the Control key once, it changes to a centering tool. We'll get to that later. And if I again hit the Control key, it changes to a distance tool, which behaves very much like the tape measure tool. You don't have to go off and get the tape measure. So I'll zoom in here and click there, come out on the line again. Make sure you're on the line. But this time, the second click of a distance tool, do not click. Just let it sit on the line. In this case, I'm going to type 47 because 47 inches is the length of this cabinet. And since that's the outside point, I come in here on the line. It doesn't matter what the distance is because now I'm using the Story Stick tool. I'll click, and that brings up the end selector again. This time I want it to be a right opening because I'm going to put a dishwasher over here. So there's going to be an opening for a dishwasher before I resume cabinets over here. So I'm going to use a right opening. Okay, now the only time you'll see those dialog boxes is when you do these end markers here. Every marker in between is going to be a connector, and CabWriter knows the width of connectors because it's in the CabWriter settings defaults. So since it knows every one of these in between markers is going to be a connector, I don't get that dialog box. But what I do want to use, I want to use the distance tool again. 2 clicks of the Control key, click here, and come out here. And make sure I'm on the line. And I'm going to type 15. And the reason is that cabinet on the right end, I want to have an opening of 15 inches. So that's why I started with the inside mark. So I'll type 15, enter. And like I said, this is the opening here, from here to here. So I have to come over this side this time. Any place I want, as long as it says online, and click. Now notice it automatically bounced back to the width of that marker based on the contents of the CabWriter settings, the defaults. Alright, so this one wants to have a 15-inch opening also. So I'll go to the distance tool again. I'll click here on the guide point. I'll come out here, no click for the second point of the distance tool. No click, just make sure you're on the line. Type 15, enter. And now, since that's the opening, I'll come over here and click. Now this opening is going to be what's ever left. I can measure it to see what it is. And it looks like 11 inches. Okay, so I'll go back to the Story Stick and notice my Story Stick markers come back. And now I'm ready to tell CabWriter what the boxes for this cabinet are going to be. The way I do that is when I finish the story stick, I hit the End key on the keyboard. The End key. E-N-D. And that brings up the box selector. I'm going to put the box selector up here. Notice that these two sets of markers are blue because it's telling me that's the box that I'm going to define. And that's box 1. It's box 1 because I started with this marker and then this marker. So I went from left to right. So my box 1 will be this one. This will be box 2. This will be box 3. Box 1 I want to make a Lazy Susan. And one door. By the way, I can change any of these defaults. I can do it right now on a box by box basis. But I'm going to leave them as the defaults are. And I'm going to click Next. Notice this is the Next button. So I'll click Next. And now it wants to know about box 2. Box 2. Box 2 is going to be a draw bank base. I'm going to make it a 3 draw bank base. And go to my next box. This one's going to be a standard base with draw. One door, one draw. This time, this button doesn't say Next, it says OK because I'm working on the last box, and once I've defined that and hit OK, it's going to draw my cabinet. I got to be patient. There we go. It took a while to draw this cabinet because of the type of joinery I chose. I chose to have my backs inset and some other things inside the cabinet that I'll show you in a moment. But notice I've got my cabinet now. Now I can add cabinets to this. For instance, suppose I want another cabinet over here. Whoops. That was an accident. Suppose I want another cabinet over here. Well, I can just draw them out here, and where would I start? Well, if I'm going to put another cabinet over here, I want its style, its connector style, to be the same and occupy the same space as this connector style. So I would create a mark. I'll come out here along the green, click, and come back. I'm sorry, not click, but come back until it says 0, and then click. That'll give me an intersection point here. So my next cabinet will start here and go this way. This time it'll be right to left. And what I'll do is I'll make my first marker a connector. It'll be a right connector. And I'll create another connector style right over top of this one. And as we'll see later, I'll have to delete one of them. But that's for part 3. Let me go back to what we've done here. And for the moment, I'll get rid of, well, what I will do is I'll put, let me just put a construction point right there. And delete this construction line so I don't clutter up my drawing. And I'll save this. I like to save frequently. Okay, so I've got my one cabinet that we're going to draw today, but I just want to show you a few things about this cabinet. If I clear all layers and just bring back my base boxes, Right there, base boxes. Nope, that's the draw boxes. There we are, base boxes. And I'm going to pull one of these ends off. Let me see, I'll pull this end off. I have to choose it, unlock it. Now I can move it with the end tool. I want to be able to put it back in the same place, so I'll bring it out a number like 10 inches, something I can remember. Or I'll make it 20 inches. And I'm going to zoom in here. Notice the other joinery I chose is that I wanted a mortise and tenon joinery here. And notice the grooves over here in this side to receive this tenon. The back on these boxes are standard butt joint connections. But on this box, I'm going to open up this and this and unlock it, and I'll move them out 10 inches. Notice on this one, the backs are embedded. So I've got a groove here. To accept this rabbet here. Now, because of the construction of this corner cab, it's difficult to create this embedded back kind of construction. So corner cabinets don't get inset joinery. CabWriter at the moment does not do inset joinery for corner cabinets. So that would be the Lazy Susan and the diagonal corner cab. But everything else can have that type of joinery. All right, so let me just back this up. And that should be locked now. It is. And this is where we're going to end this video. And we will pick up with part 3. And in part 3, we'll begin to draw other cabinets, and we'll move along much more quickly. Because now that we know how to draw a single cabinet, drawing more cabinets is very similar. Although we will draw other cabinets that have other parameter changes and features and things like that. So you'll see how to change parameters and store them to bring them up later, so on and so forth. So, have a good day until part 3.